Hi, it's Scott. ROCKFILE back with another podcast review for you. Going to talk about the 1995 film, The Addiction, in its new 4K edition. Don't know how I missed this one in the 90s. I was really into this kind of movie. Abel Ferrara directed this in New York back in the 90s, mid-90s, in black and white. Has quite a few stars: Lily Taylor, Christopher Walken, Annabella Sciorra, Edie Falco, Michael Imperioli. And it's a vampire movie. A little bit different kind of vampire movie. It's definitely not campy. It's definitely not a comedy. It's a real vampire movie. Was made on a limited budget, but he had just made some big budget things. He had been working on things like Body Snatchers. This was after doing some gritty films, as you are probably well aware. The movie only made $300,000 at the box office. It was released in theaters back in October of 1995. It kind of disappeared for a while. It won some, Independent Spirit Awards and things like that. Disappeared, finally came back out on VHS, DVD, and Blu-ray a few years ago. Arrow has done now a special edition on 4K, fully restored from its original film and all that kind of stuff. I ordered it when I pre-ordered the Demolition Man limited edition, both from the Arrow store, because, well, it was my first order from them, so I got a discount. Then I got free shipping because I ordered enough, that kind of thing. And this was all before the holidays. It was just I wanted to the Demolition Man special edition, which I've already reviewed, and it was well worth the money. I would have paid a lot more for that. It's really a nice set. But I threw this in there because it was cheaper that way. I looked up pre-orders on like Amazon and stuff, which were a lot more for this movie, and I didn't know that I wanted to pay a lot of money for this movie. I like the director. I like everybody involved, but again, I've never heard of it, and I'm a vampire fan. How did I not see this movie? The movie is about a character named Kathleen Conklin. She's a graduate student of philosophy, New York University. She gets attacked one night by a character who calls herself Casanova, and it's played by Annabella Sciorra, who looks amazing in this movie. They have a very interesting event in a stairwell off the side of a street, bites her neck, drinks her blood, asks her some pretty philosophical questions, and immediately, once she leaves, Kathleen starts having a few effects that over the course of the next few minutes in the movie, she becomes more aggressive, she becomes sensitive to light, she doesn't really like food, she's not sleeping well, that kind of stuff. I will not get into spoilers because if you've never seen this movie, it's 82 minutes, it's very short. Everybody in it's fantastic. Christopher Walken is not in it a lot, but the character he plays and the role he has in the movie is important. Also very impressed with Annabella Sciorra in this. And Lily Taylor, always been one of my favorite actresses because she can do weird better than anybody. She's playing a very normal character who gets involved with some very weird stuff. There is also a pretty epic kind of ending to the film that I didn't see coming. That was like, wow, I don't know that I've seen that in too many movies ever. It plays vampirism as more than like the sexual vampirism that we're used to. It plays with the whole idea of addiction and how you might take some of these things upon yourself to get that next fix and kind of thing. It even starts out with her trying to inject blood from people. That gives you that whole addiction thing. So the movie goes beyond what we normally think about a vampire movie. I just reviewed a Christmas Horror Story. That would be pretty much for anyone. This movie, you're going to want a more philosophical slant on your movie. This is basically an art house film. It does have some action sequences, some horror elements. It is beautiful black and white. The HDR does amazing job with blacks and grays and whites and all the variations within. Blood that shines in the light, but of course it's black. It really does look amazing. It has a 5.1 soundtrack that sounds pretty good for its age. I don't know that they did a whole lot to bring it to modern times. I mean, it sounded fine. You'll want to turn it up for some parts and maybe want to turn it down for some other parts. There were a few points where conversations were very in a natural setting. So I kind of had to turn that up, but I was really not trying to be too loud watching this movie. It was kind of late at night. And there were a few scenes when vampire type things happen where the soundtrack does get louder. I praise everything about this film. This has become one of my favorite vampire films just because it's so different, and everybody's doing a really great job in the movie. Now, talking about the Arrow Special Edition, as I've found out on just the few that I own, they make brand new extras. Now, this didn't get an Atmos update, but I don't think it needs one. Like I said, it's more of an art house film, but the visuals, it didn't come with a Blu-ray for me to compare, but it looks amazing. A black and white film with good HDR in 4K. You can see details and stuff. It's just black and white and variations of gray. It really adds to the mood of the film. It was a right choice for this movie. Not always a right choice in modern films, but again, this came from the 90s. But as a modern film, as I watched it as something I've never seen, so this is my first time, the black and white fit the film totally. As I mentioned at the beginning, it won some Independent Spirit Awards and was nominated for several awards, Best Feature and that kind of thing. It deserves it. It's really a good film. But again, a philosophical film. Some characters ask questions that they really don't have answers to. It makes you think. And I really like that in a movie. It's not going to be one I pull out at Halloween because it's not really that kind of horror movie. It's more of a drama that you can watch anytime. But it does have horror elements. It is a vampire movie, but a philosophical vampire movie. This would join the likes of what Only Two Lovers Left Alive, that film, kind of an art house vampire movie there. Really enjoyed it. Abel Ferreira, he's a good director, especially when he's got good, talented people doing really good work. So check it out. The Addiction is now available. It's been out on Blu-ray. It's now available in 4K. I highly recommend that. The HDR, super high bit rate, by the way. When I checked that kind of stuff, it was peaking at over 100, usually in the 80s and 90s. For a black and white film, that actually surprised me. Sounds and looks great. Kudos again for another great Arrow Special Edition. Pick up The Addiction if it sounds like your cup of tea. It's a really interesting vampire movie. I'm Scott. I'm ROCKFILE. Thanks for listening to another podcast. Hope you're having a great holiday season. Thank you for listening.